So do I hit?
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans, sponsored by Lion Bolt Media. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, essentially gathering insight, inspiration. It really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Now, our very special guest and featured titan for episode 264 from beautiful Colorado Springs, Colorado, none other than Greg Wolff. Greg, it's an honor, my friend. Thanks for taking the time.
Greg, the honor's all mine, and I'm flattered. And it's even more special because we had an opportunity to work together for years and have a good friendship. So I appreciate it.
Hey, Greg, I got to give you a massive shout out because we do have a history. And full disclaimer to everybody, Greg is such a wonderful human being, a business professional, and just an incredible friend. And our relationship means the world to me. And I'm just so glad that you're finally going to be on the show after 5 years running. You know, we've got Greg Wolff, everybody, which is big. You've been doing this for such a long time, Greg, and you have so much perspective and information to drop on everybody learning and growing and scaling into real estate. So I really want to dive into kind of your story. Really, who is Greg Wolff? Where you came from, what got you into the biz, and where you're going today. Let's kind of get the origin story. What's that?
Sure. I grew up as a child. I was born in a little town called Bensonville, about 12 miles west of Chicago. And when I was 12, we moved to Colorado for my dad's health. And so I thought I was pretty excited to go to Colorado, get out of that that Chicago weather where it snows and it's on the ground. It snows in October, it's on the ground in February, and it's still black, right?
The Windy City, right?
Yes, it is. And so we were here, and I was 17. I was going to school. I went to parochial schools most of my life, and we'll just leave it at that. And then I was in high school. I went to a parochial all boys school because it was religious, and so I went there for a few years. And then my brother and I were able to talk my mom into going to a public school. And so then my dad died when I was in high school, and then a year later, not even a year later, actually. So after we graduated, my mom decided that she's going to move to Fort Collins. And so, and that's what she did. And so I decided I didn't want to go to Fort Collins. So we, when I say we, sometimes my twin brother was involved, but so we got an apartment and this and that. And so I was only about 18. I mean, right after, I'm old enough that right after high school, you're out of the house. I mean, if I could do it all over, I'd still be living at home, right?
Well said.
But so I learned welding. I learned how to weld in high school, and so I was a welder, and by trade, I did that and went to school. Because at that time I was young enough to collect on my father's part of his Social Security, so it was like working a job, going to school.
Wow.
And then I was doing that, and the interest rate started picking up, and I decided I didn't like to weld anymore. It was just it's dirty, it's smoky, and you might as well be a chain smoker sometimes when you're welding. Then I was fortunate. I got a job at a subsidiary of the title companies as a runner. And that was kind of exciting. Here I was like 19, 20 years old. I got a company car, and I got to take it home on weekends, and I'd gas up on Friday. And once you know, you'd see Greg Wolff at the pump on Monday, pumping up again. Yeah, so I did that for a couple of years, and then had an opportunity from the person that represented the runners. he asked me to come into his office on a Friday and basically said, hey, you know everything about running. Security Title would like to hire you. And I thought, wow, I've never had that before. I'm working for somebody and somebody else wants me to work for them.
Wow.
And so I went to work for the title company as a runner, but I would be responsible for looking over documents. I'd pick up documents, deeds, make sure they're recorded. No, I mean, not recorded, make sure they're executed, notarized, and then I would go to I had a route. I'd go to the appropriate courthouses in my area and record them. So I did that, and I was going to school. And when the interest rates, as I said earlier, started ticking up, I thought, geez, I gotta buy a house because this is ridiculous. So I quit school, I quit college, and they were only going to pay me until I was still a minor, right? So I was able to get about 18 credits there.
Wow.
And quit school and got another job. And I was able to buy my first house. And I think I was 20 or 21. And then about a year after that, my first mortgage was a 13.5% negative amortization, which means that the deed of trust actually went up as I owned the house. So after that, just right around the corner, there was a tri-level for sale. And I went from a 1,200 square foot house to a tri-level, just 2-car garage right around the corner.
Wow.
And I learned an interesting thing as I was working 2 jobs then. I'd be title insurance during the day and the night shift. I'd be working at the Denver Post.
Wow.
And I was a member of their credit union. And the neat thing there, back in the middle 80s, credit unions didn't rate with the credit bureau. And so I could, I'm probably out of legal statute, I could say this, but I could borrow money there under a personal loan. And that's what I did. I borrowed money. I assumed the loan on this other property and flipped that, sold the other one, and then moved in there. And of course, had a roommate, and that helped me pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
And the same thing with my last house. So that worked out really well. And I was working for Security Title. At that time, I worked up into sales and went, got to think this out. Don't want to miss a beat here.
There's a lot there, Greg. You know,
sorry. Yeah, there's
the foundation. This is good.
You know, it's the important stuff, and so that started my career in real estate, dabbling, if you will. And I met my wife. My wife was a real estate closer at another title not another title company. She was a real estate closer, and after a 5-year courtship, we got married, and so that was wonderful, and still is.
Beautiful.
And what else? So just did sales, and I have to say that one of the interesting things that I did, and when I was calling on this gentleman by the name of Jim Hickam. Well, Jim sold ranches, and if you were from Denver, it's had a little boutique real estate company. And but he sold dirt, land, and houses, and we were talking, and he's just a guy about 5'2" or something, with a little round, and I could still see him today. God rest his soul. And he's there. You're never going to buy a house from me, am I? Are you? And I looked and I said, Jim, I can't buy a house from everybody I call on. I don't have that kind of money. And so the funny thing about it is he was doing this thing in Fort Morgan, so from Denver. So he did talk me into buying some property with him. And what it was about, it was we would buy bank-owned, get a load of this bank-owned manufactured homes that were foreclosed on for like $1,000 a pop.
Wow.
From Bank Western back then. And we would do that, and then we would put them on a lot. The lot would pay about $3,000 for, and for another $2,000 to $3,000, I wouldn't do this, but we would have a skirt put on them. And it was, Fort Morgan is near, I think it's Lake McConaughey. So a lot of people would go there in the summertime, water skiing, big lake.
Huh.
And so they would he would have somebody put a skirt on them and put them, stain them down or whatever you do. And would sell those things for $15,000.
Wow.
So getting some history, I had to reflect on my past, and I thought, gosh, I forgot all about that. And so that was probably one of my real estate transactions as a title person.
Yeah.
But I learned I learned a lot. And so in 1985, had the opportunity I was in sales for 8 years and doing very, very well. And I was approached by my boss, Ross Smith. Then some of you old timers like myself probably still remember Ross, what a good guy. And he asked me if I wanted to run the operation in Colorado Springs.
Wow.
And which he used to manage for 3 years. And then I went up to Denver. He went up to Denver to be the president of Security Title. And so it was wonderful because the wife and I decided to have a baby, raise our family.
Yeah.
And we were, Denver was just getting crowded back then. And so we did that. And so we moved to Colorado Springs. I lived in the neighborhood, and so that was good. That was good. And so I learned, I met the owner. I had not daily, but interactions with the owner. And when he called me back to the office, because I thought I'm doing pretty good in sales, I like the commission. And I said, why would I want to go there? And he said, Greg, it'll give you the opportunity to run your own company, your own business. And I was flattered, but only to find out later I could run my own business if I did what they told me to do.
Oh, that's great.
So anyway, to make a long story short, 1986, we moved down here in a little area called Glen Eagle, subdivision. Wow. And so it's a whole different level. We're working in that mindset. And when I say that mindset, I'm the new kid on the block. And yet I was 28 when I came down here. And no one would talk to me because they wanted someone else to be the manager.
Wow.
Except this guy from Denver. So it was interesting. It took them about a year before I would walk in the office and they'd say hello to me first before me initiating the conversation. Excuse me, I just moved this thing. Is that all right?
You're good.
All right, I'll go. And so anyway, I did that. My wife came down, and we did start our family, and then we worked together. She was a wonderful, just a talented lady, and I'm blessed to say that we've worked together for like over 35 years, and together for 43 years. And
that's huge. Gee.
Yeah, which is really, to work all those hours together and then go home. It's quite an accomplishment, but I'm very lucky to have done that. And so anyway, I digress.
No, well, this is great for the foundation, and just to kind of dive into that, Greg. I mean, it's massive into thinking about back then. You've seen Colorado Springs adjust over 30 plus years, and dramatically different to what it is today versus what it was then. And you've just seen so much growth, so much development, so much change, and built so many incredible relationships over the years. I mean, it just blows me away. I do want to rewind on your story because I think it's important as you're starting out for anybody who's tuning in, you getting involved early on in your career, having 2 jobs, constantly moving, constantly growing, and really evaluating why you're doing what you're doing. It's incredible to me. Just from my personal experience with you, the amount of time and effort that you put into the things that you do is awe-inspiring. And it just sets that tone and the standard for so many professionals that are out there. It's like, hey, you think you're working hard? You think you're putting the time in? Check out what Greg Wolff is doing. Check out what Greg Wolff did. It's massive. It's so great to see a true pro really see that through, taking a managerial position, getting out of sales into that realm and seeing that adjustment into your life, into your career is huge. So let's pick up where you left off. You're in Colorado Springs. This is now your operation.
Yes.
Where does it go from there?
Yeah. Well, let me backtrack just one little point.
Oh yeah, please.
And this is everybody's challenge. Time. Where do you get the time? I need more time. And I was taught years ago from my older brother, Bob, and he says, you want more time? Just get up early. He said,
there you go.
He said, you can get 4 hours a day, multiply that by 7 days a week. That's 28 hours. And I tell you what, I've learned when I was in sales, I used to get up there at, I would wake up at 4 o'clock, literally. I get up, to this day, I get up at 4 o'clock, 4:15. And I worked with a very aggressive sales staff when I was in Denver, and they were number 1 and number 2 in Cherry Creek when I transferred to that office.
Unreal.
And they were tough. So my goal was I'd get to the office early. I would write all my thank yous. I'd write at least 20 to 25 thank yous a day just for title orders. And when they were walking in, I was walking out. And they just, hey, where have you been? That type of thing. And I'd play I don't want to say, I played the game in the sense that on Valentine's Day, I bought flowers for the ladies because they would support me. And so I'd buy flowers for the office. And then about 4 days later, I'd be in the office later in the afternoon. And this one guy named Steve would say, hey, really good idea buying flowers for the ladies, Greg. But it was a tough group. It was a tough group. And one day, and I was still the new kid on the block. And this was back then. Wow. And in sales. So I'm saying that hours because that's what I brought to Colorado Springs. I would do the same thing, get up early, and that's how you get your extra hours in the day. Love that. And then someone else taught me, and I forgot maybe what seminar it was. They said, walk fast. If you walk fast in the office, people won't want to stop you. They'll think you have something important to do, and it worked. Yeah. Yeah. I was always walking fast.
I love it.
And no one would ask me to go run and pick up this, pick up that. And so it was a good thing. And so anyway, but thanks for letting me recap that. Yeah, so Colorado Springs, I remember when Ross handed me the baton, so to speak, or whatever you want to call it. There, well, how we doing? And well, first of all, we went down, and the office was located across from Cheers liquor store on Circle, so it wasn't the greatest location. A competitor drove me by, a good friend of mine drove me by the office on a Sunday, and I said, "Hey, it's a stop at. Where's my office?" He said, "Oh yeah, Greg, it's over there." And it was something, And Ross told me, I said, "Well, hey, where do we stand on title companies?" He said, "Greg, we're number 6." And I thought, crap.
Wow.
So I know, you know what, it was a long haul. We got to be number 1 for several years by innovative ideas and that type of thing. But it was great. I had a wonderful team, and still working, with my wife there, and so it was good. We grew the office, the operation, and life was good. In between those years, we moved the office, and when it came to buying real estate, I bought a couple properties with a buddy of mine at the time. Sure. And my rule of thumb was it was a lot easier to buy a property with somebody else because I was still raising a family. I didn't have all that much money, but raising a family. So if the hot water heater went out or some big ticket item, I was splitting it with somebody else.
Well said.
So I did that, and I did the same thing when I was in Denver with other properties. I would go in halves with others, acquaintances, friends, that type of thing, because real estate's the key. I mean, that's where the money is. So anywho, and so Colorado Springs was a good opportunity for me. I was fortunate in I did, I might say, I did in the 70s take my real estate exam and I failed it.
Got it.
And
That's
so,
normal.
yeah, so I failed it, and I said, that was during the gas moratorium in the early 80s, and I thought, you know what, I kind of like where I'm at, in the sense I got health insurance and this type of thing, so it wasn't no big thing.
Sure.
However, in 20 some odd years later, in 1996, I was at a Broadmoor convention with a lender that I know, and we were having lunch, and he said, "I'm getting my broker's license." And I thought, getting your broker's license? And I said, "John, you're a lender." And he said, the real estate law is changing, and if you get in before the end of the year, you can grandfather in,
Wow.
as long as you have the education. Yeah, and so I called up my real estate mentor in Denver, the late rest her soul, Betty Armbrust, and I was her title rep back in the day. Wow. And I said, "God, Betty, what am I going to need if I want to get this employing broker's license?" She said, "Greg, you're going to need finance and something else, Yep. And so it was December, and so I took the week off on December 20th, and so I took classes from her.
Wow.
And that type of thing. It worked out, and I was able to get my employing broker's license. And as many of you know, after 97, you have to work under an employing broker for 2 years before you can do that. So it worked out. So I got my employing broker's license, and I was able to talk the company into paying my dues. So I had dues as a title company in Colorado Springs, PPAR, and wow. And they paid my NAR dues. I mean, it was great. And as you know, Greg, because we did work together for years, but it allowed me the opportunity to go to national conferences, and we went to nice places, right?
Sure. Oh yeah.
I mean Disney World and California. So it did have its perks, but them paying my dues and that type of thing was a good thing. The only thing with security title, and rightfully so, is I couldn't actively sell homes in the sense of competing against my fellow realtors, so to speak.
Sure.
So I just kind of, kept it on the down low, as they say. And I did in 95 have the pleasure of going to a Larry Kendall class and ninja selling, and that just kind of just took the bar up from mastery in title insurance, because it was applicable. I had people go up and says, "What are you doing here? You're a title rep." And I said, "Hey, I've got to work too,
Sure.
And I'm there. I could work better with the realtors." So I took those classes and just used a lot of foundational lessons there. And I have it today. Where is it? Here it is. And for those of you that went to ninja selling, this is the little contract that you make with yourself,
Cool.
And I'll never forget at the end, you're supposed to put how much you're going to make and then share it with your partner, or whoever's next to you, that type of thing. So it means more. And I put a figure down, and it was great, because this guy looked at me and said, "You can make that in title insurance?" I'm there, "Sure."
Sure. Yeah.
I
love that you're mentioning that.
Yeah, go on.
That's a big thing, Greg. And, I want to give Larry a shout out, fellow Titan, past Titan. Anybody who's involved in the real estate space knows about ninja selling. I think that it's a massive installation, especially out of Northern Colorado. What I would base that off of, though, is sales is sales, communication, and people and relationship building. It goes across the board. So you continually educating yourself and growing, getting licensed, being an asset to the people that are in your lives professionally. I think it's just super smart, Greg. So the fact that you're putting yourself in those rooms and really taking yourself to a higher extent, right? Showing up early, putting in the time, and then putting up those numbers, having opportunities. It's big stuff. So I love that you do that.
Well, thank you. So that's about it. And then I was going to say in 2008 there was another financial crisis. We can all relate to that.
Oh, sure.
And that was a tough one. And good news, bad news. I was given a few more offices to oversee. And unfortunately, I was also then I forgot the guy's name who was the hatchet guy in the 80s, but I'd have to downsize the offices. And that was just no fun. I mean, that was just, but anywho, but the neat thing was, as it pertains to real estate, when the other company bought us, it was a public company, and a large public company, but it allowed me to take my 401k from security title, where I got my roots, and open up a self-directed IRA.
Very cool.
And what do you do? You buy real estate. So I was able to use that as another tool. And the why actually was, I was going to say Tanya and I, but actually it was my IRA. So bought a couple of condos across from DU, and had those. And and I say that because that's another takeaway, that you could use your IRA to buy property, but you can't have immediate family live in it. However, vice versa, you could do an IRA and buy a condo and rent it to your nieces or nephews, like once removed, or however that genealogy chart goes, that type of thing.
Sure.
So that's another tool, and I say that I like that because, especially with interest rates creeping up, this would be a good tool if someone has some money socked away, a relative in an IRA, that they can tap that out. And when I say tap it out, they could get interest, they could do a deed of trust, and make everything legal, of course, get title insurance and that type of thing. And I always do that whenever I work with family, is, just do, contracts, and, just so there's, nothing will separate family quicker than money. So you might as well just have it in writing, right?
Sound advice, Greg. And I want to reiterate that back to, your early 20s and buying your first property. Anybody who's tuning in and saying, oh, this guy must have came from money, he must have had something handed to him. I want to reiterate this. You're no silver spoon individual, Greg. Again, working multiple jobs, putting the time in, and really just building upon that. And this is something that I think really needs to hit home to anybody who's tuning in live with us or listening after the fact, even if it's a year from now. I think it's important to invest in real estate. There's so many real estate professionals that are not doing that. You've been practicing that since your 20s. So you have a lot of perspective and understanding as to how that can really affect for wealth building. I mean, it's one of the many reasons why, on a personal note, that, we were very fortunate when we sold our property in Colorado to utilize you and your company.
Thank you.
It was just, there was no other thought. And, again, for me in perspective, I've gotten to know you over so many years, and your knowledge and professionalism and expertise is out of bounds. It's just incredible, Greg. So the fact of the matter is that knowing so many wonderful real estate professionals, and there are quite a few, you got to find somebody that you can really feel comfortable with and trust, and know that their best interests at heart are to help guide you through the process. And myself and my wife felt nothing but the greatest of care from you and the team. It was big, Greg. And that's a statement that I, harp to the moon and back. I think it's important. But again, it's not just because I know you, like you, and trust you, but it's your knowledge through the roof. I mean, it's just very, very tentative to those details, but it's not something that you learned overnight. I mean, you've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, and you always surround yourself with incredible individuals. So to me, I think it's fantastic. Shameless plug from my end there, but it's the fact. I can say that because I am a client, in addition. There you go. So, but continue, Greg. So you're going down the road. You were in 2008. So let's keep going down the journey.
Sure. Down the journey. Let me look at my.
What's next? What happens in the life? I want to get to that process, because where you're
Sure.
at today with Wolff Real Estate Group and
Right.
obviously helping so many
Right.
buyers, so many sellers. We still got some time in between that. So I want to hit that.
Okay. Okay. Fast forward to 2011, let's say.
Sure.
Somewhere in between there, about 1991, 92, my wife decided that she wanted to have a horse. And it's like, oh, well, we can't have a horse in this subdivision because it's Glen Eagle, and they don't allow that,
Oh, I love it. Love it.
And so she got a horse. It was Ross's wife, my old boss's wife, talked her into, oh, you can get a horse. So get a load of that. So we were fortunate. It was a lot cheaper to buy our own property with horses, so we didn't have to pay rent.
Smart.
And exactly. So we found a place that we were looking for 5 acres, but we had to purchase 9 extra acres for a total of just shy of 14 acres.
Okay.
And that was good. That was good. However, it did come. The only way we could do it is if the seller carried back a second deed of trust, and the owner will carry for another $70,000.
Wow.
And so we did it. We made it happen. And I sold a car I used to have, a little pride and joy. I remember it was Mother's Day, 1996, when I was able to sell that little jewel and pay off that second mortgage.
Yeah.
And then we made eventually, Tanya had up to the U.S. Air Force Academy horse team roping team. They were here on weekends.
Wow.
And she was an unofficial sponsor, and she had cattle, and it was just excited as many over the years. Get a load of this. We had as many as 23 horses here, and I said, hey, too much hay.
Wow.
But you know what? She worked hard, and I'd never take that away from her. That was a fun 23 years, and unfortunately, the kids never took to it either.
Hey.
So it is what it is. But coming back to 2011 in that area,
Sure.
when she was done with the horses, cattle, and stuff, we decided to subdivide. So we subdivided the property. We kept 5 acres, and that was, and I was still with the title companies then, and that still allowed us to, on one lot, we sold a lot, and wow, long and behold, I picked up the phone one day, and someone called me and said, hey, my wife her dad died and had a place on Northgate Road, and would you be interested in buying? No, he said I need an O&E. And I thought, O&E, what's the address? And he gave it to me. I said, you're my neighbors. And to make a long story short, ended up selling one lot and buying a 10-acre site for that. And someone called me a developer the other day, and not that I took offense to it. And I just, I didn't. I'm an opportunist. I wasn't looking. The person called me, but we did that and subdivided that. And so, along this progression, I've always done the real estate, and to bring it current in 2017, the corporate world was just changing. And
Sure.
for so many years, I was 60 miles away. So I was insulated. I wasn't near admin. I didn't run into my boss every day.
Sure.
And so as long as my numbers were up, my net to gross was there, I was good. And then all of a sudden corporate, the last couple of years, there was just too much knee jerking and knee-jerk reactions and just petty stuff. So
Sure.
In 2017, Tanya left the industry, and my closer, and then I left in that same year, and we started Wolff Real Estate Company, and so that's good. I tell you what, I'm so blessed, and another nugget, as you call it.
Yeah.
If I ever needed to hire a real estate assistant, the first place I'd look is hiring a closer.
Oof. Yeah.
because
Great point.
it is of course I married one, so
You're
I tell
biased. You're
yeah,
biased.
I'm
You
biased.
know?
I'm biased, but I know there's a lot of good closers, but I know the market's slow right now, but but a good closer is just phenomenal. We had a transaction just this weekend, and the people said, well, we want to take title as a land trust. And it was a $1 million plus property, and on their land trust, I had to look it up. I thought, are those illegal? And so I found out that they weren't. But anyway, thank God, Tanya, after a couple hours, I mean, it was very convoluted as far as how the signature page had to be, but she's been very instrumental in support with the technical stuff, the technical stuff. So it's Wolff Real Estate is my son and I.
Mhm.
We do the heavy lifting.
Sure.
And
Big shout out to Brennan, by the way.
yeah, big
Class
shout out.
act.
Yeah.
It doesn't fall far from the tree, as they say.
Yeah, you know
So,
what? I tell you what, my son, he had the fortune to be to mentor under my brother Bob Wolff in Dana Point, California for 2 years.
yeah.
And which is Bob is still going hard, and he's the one that taught me. He's still I could call him at 6 o'clock, and he answers the phone every morning, and he's still a go-getter. But after 2 years, Brennan got tired of California, wanted to come back home to Colorado, and just a wealth of knowledge, smart kid. And I'm not a kid anymore, but but you know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're saying.
By my standards.
Yep.
And so we work together. So it's fun, and I learn a lot, and he learns a lot, and we're still doing these things. I've received several referrals after we subdivided our property. I had a neighbor from up the street, 2 miles up. He pulled in my driveway one day, and I was out there. He said, could you help me subdivide my property? And real nice guy. And I did. And so, it takes a long time to do, and they do all the work, and they put out the money. I certainly don't. However, it's about 1.5 years later, then I get a couple more sales out of the deal.
Wow.
So,
Greg, when you mentioned that, and again, 2017, kind of making that shift out of corporate and really going all in on the real estate side, through Wolff Real Estate Group, what an incredible opportunity to build that team and organization with the family, and really just helping so many people in the community. I want to give everybody a deeper understanding of that too, because working with buyers, working with sellers, working with investors, you do transactions all over. I mean, specializing in the north end of Colorado Springs, but you've done transactions. Where is kind of the primary areas for people that are tuning in here?
I went to Pueblo for a VP of a bank in town, and we listed her property, sold the property to her and her family in Woodland Park. I because of my contacts in Denver. Let me clarify that. We'll clarify that. I will. I still go up to Denver a lot.
Sure.
And so I just sent. I have a I was going to send a referral to a commercial realtor on a $1.2 million off condo warehouse, and I sent it to a commercial realtor. We both know who it is, and he says, "Gosh, Greg, a referral? Why don't you just co-list it with me?" And I thought, well, that's wonderful. So I'm not acting out of my scope of authority, out of my residential, out of my residential limitations. So,
sure.
So that's been very good. And, that was a recent listing. So, and sold a house in Aurora for a buddy I work out with up there. And he wants to buy a house. Him and his wife want to retire. He's in his 40s. But made enough money, and they want to buy a house in Estes Park. So I'll go as far as I can, unless I never want to put myself in that position where I compromise.
Right.
The customers. I heard my brother lives up near there in Fort Collins, and ran an office up there for years. And he says, hey, you got to watch the boundaries up there, and the well might be on another property, so just be mind, that's what he had heard. And,
Right.
So live and learn. And so I'm yeah, so I go along the Front Range.
Gotcha.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah. I think it's important to know. I mean, so many individuals and so much about the geographic locations. I mean, it's just wanting clarity on that sort of standpoint. But I think it's important to know that you're either, if somebody reaches out to you, if they're looking to sell their property, if they're looking to find that next home, that you're going to help them one way or the other. If it's through the team or through knowing somebody that's going to get it done, you guys are that one-stop shop. There's 100%. And at least from my perspective as an actual client or past client, you were always there. I mean, any questions, anytime, you went above and beyond. I mean, there's plenty of stories that I can share. I won't, but ultimately, thank you. What I will say is that, truly, when someone says go above and beyond, I think people throw that around loosely. You actually live that. And we felt just such a smooth experience, through and through, all the way from, a seller standpoint, which was fantastic. And again, just the readily available nature and just the communication. But yeah, we felt you and Brennan and the team always there. And I thought it was just wonderful. It was just a great experience. And, since I will send anybody and everybody, your way that way too. I think it's important.
You're the best. You're the best. Thank you.
Oh gosh, it's all there. So I gotta shift here, Greg, because I think this is important for everybody to know. And you've dropped so many nuggets, really so many thought processes, especially getting involved into the work ethic and the drive and determination to really excel in anything that you do. From a sales standpoint, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, talking about investing, you went through a lot in here. But this secondary question, everybody tunes in because they want to learn from the best and brightest. They want to know what the Titans would say to their younger selves, in a way, pieces of advice. So the way that I phrase this question every time is, if you could look back at your career thus far and pick or choose one or two things that you added or implemented to your business, that you saw growth, you saw movement of the needle in a positive, what would that be? What piece of advice would you give to anybody tuning in right now?
I guess it would be, I learned it a long time ago, and hey, once again, from Larry Kendall, is for instance, like right now, the interest rates are going up, 7.5, I don't know what they're at. I try not to even look, but the thing that I remember, the same thing happens to everybody. The however many realtors we have in Colorado Springs or in Denver, and you have to be in tune to change directions. You have to be in tune to, all right, what are my options? And it was the same thing in title insurance. The market moves. It wasn't always good. When I say it wasn't always good, sometimes realtors got hit hard. And as a title company, we sometimes didn't feel that because you might be slow, but we're making, we're doing refinances. Does that make sense? So
it's all perspective.
So exactly. So it's the ability to, in my opinion, to shift and think, okay, what's another market to get into? And I can't get into details right now because I'd give you all my future deals.
Fair enough.
But you get the idea. And just remembering the same thing happens to everybody. It isn't poor you. The only one that's going to pick yourself up is yourself. And you have to look at the different marketplaces, and in my opinion, and they're out there, and get creative. Tell people to, find out what relatives might have a 401k that they want to loan. I've bought properties on a fly, and I bought a cabin. My wife and I, my brother had next to him, and an old boss of mine had a beautiful cabin, a little cabin, 640 square feet. And he's there, gosh, Greg, remember that cabin next door to ours that they've had for 45 years that he inherited? He's there, that cabin's available. Wouldn't it be nice to have a compound? And I'm thinking, I wasn't looking for a cabin today. And, but, talking with the wife, boy, wouldn't that be nice, she said. And I borrowed from another relative's 401k. I said, hey, it doesn't happen often, but would you do this? And sure enough, we got that property because, Larry said one thing, and I'll never, whoever took ninja selling will always remember this. And, but it's there, anything you really wanted in life, you got.
Mm.
And if you never got it, you didn't want it bad enough.
Oof.
And it's so powerful because, I did when I was younger, when I was 27, I did buy a 450 SL because I had it on my thing and on my refrigerator. And,
Good man.
But you know what? As a lot of the fun, as many know, a lot of the fun thing is just getting it. That's the journey. It's just getting it. Sure. And then when you get it, it could be cotton candy, that type of thing afterwards, but that's the chase. That's the chase. So anywho, but that's what I do as far as that's probably the nugget that I could, mention. And then, as family is really important to me. And, I have watched superstars work so hard, get a divorce, that type of thing. So my kids and my wife, I mean, that's just, that's kind of like where I stayed in title insurance because it was a crutch a little bit. It was insurance. Sure. In the sense, but guess what? I had the weekends free to take my daughters to her cheer thing or that type of thing. Yep. And, my son just did it the other day. He's there. Well, you got to call. I'll call him Joe. Hey, you got to follow up on Joe. I left Joe a message. And I'm there. Yeah, but Brennan, it's Sunday. He's there. Dad, you're the only one that thinks that you don't call people on Sunday. And I thought, gosh, maybe I am old fashioned, but anyway.
No, but Greg, as you're mentioning all these things, it's crucially important. I mean, looking at perspective, ebbing and flowing with the market, no matter what it's doing, up, down, in and out, there's money to be made. There's adjustments that you can do to grow and accelerate business. Sure. I think being flexible in that nature is crucially important as an entrepreneur and a real estate professional. As you tie in those aspects to family, that's a part of your integrity. That's a part of your character and who you are, and why people know, love, and respect you as a person is because you're setting those boundaries into life, and you only go around once. Family is crucially important. Hey, to each their own. You want to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. That's fine. And I'm sure you'll hit incredible financial goals. Yeah. But as you mentioned, there's a level of harmony in nature to family, to spirituality, to health and wellness, and then ultimately finance. And you live that. You're a practitioner. It's not just a bumper sticker for you, Greg. Right. And that I really love and appreciate. From somebody in your caliber and your situation, that means a lot. So somebody who's tuning into this and thinking, oh, that sounds nice. In reality, you build that life. You can mold that world that you're looking to accomplish, and you're living proof of that.
Sure. And I might add, you are as well, because I noticed on Bookface or Facebook that
hey, we're on live right now.
No, but you've always, I see it with Olivia and Maverick, and every week you're going to these places, the museum and the zoo and pumpkin field, and I admire you for that. I mean that's wonderful. So
I think everybody needs to try the best they can. You have to have intentionality, and what you focus on is what ends up happening. And as you mentioned with Larry and speaking into that, I mean, everything you have and everything that you don't have is based off of your actions and decisions. And I agree with that 100%. I mean, life happens, unexpected natures, but the things that we can influence on a day-to-day basis are really going to move the needle in a big way. The little things add up to the big. And I think it's interesting to reflect and look back on life and see where things have been and see where things are going. It is interesting. And from me to you, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, Greg, because again, I know you're busy, you're working with a lot of people, and it's just nice for you and I to have this conversation. I'm very fortunate in my life to have this conversation or slight conversations like this with you on a more regular basis that's not live streamed.
Right.
So anybody out there who has not experienced Greg Wolff, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Here he is.
Yeah.
And with that being said, Greg, what's the best way if somebody really connected with your message, really wanted to know more about what you do and what the team does? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you for that?
Well, just at my Wolff RE group at gmail.com,
Okay.
or my phone number is 719-459-9653.
Love it.
And ironically, years ago, there was a realtor, and he worked for the phone company or something on the side, but the last 4 digits, he thought it was cute to actually spell Wolf on the telephone.
Oh, no way. Oh, that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. And but don't do it when you're driving.
No, please. Safety first. Safety first. I'm going to have all that in the show notes, though, Greg, so everybody can.
Right.
Again, I encourage everybody to follow Wolff Real Estate Group on Facebook and Instagram. Connect with Greg and the team any way that you can. There's so much to be learned. The tip of the iceberg, my friend. We just barely covered a few things, but you shared so much as it was. So I encourage everybody to reach out and connect with Greg if you're looking to buy, if you're looking to sell, or if you're just looking to pick someone's brain who's been there, can provide perspective. So Greg, I can't thank you enough again for taking the time to do this. I do have to dub you an official real estate titan. So that is an honor that you can carry with you forever. There's no plaques, there's no trophies. It's just
I'm
a badge of honor.
I'm flattered. Thank you very, very much. I hope I wasn't too chatty.
Oh, this was perfect. I loved every minute of it. And I know that so many people enjoyed it as well. And there's just takeaways through the roof, Greg. So thanks again. I really appreciate you. I mean that. And everybody out there, I appreciate you as always for your time and attention, your love and support. If you like here with doing Real Estate Titans, don't forget to like and subscribe. You know what to do at this point. I do have to give our sponsor a quick shout out, Lion Bolt Media. If you are a real estate professional looking to grow and scale your business with digital marketing and advertising to the highest of levels, visit lionboltmedia.com. Now we are live here on Real Estate Titans every Tuesday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. We'll catch everybody in the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks. Thank you, Greg. See you then. Bye-bye.